After you've cut out the template, now you can start just drawing out your design from the template onto your 4x8 sheets of 3/4 inch plywood. You can obviously just draw it on one side, flip it over, and draw the other side. And then, after you've done your template, now you've got two drawn out, ready to cut with the jigsaw. I'll do this with 9 sheets of plywood, and I'll end up with 18 template sides for the ramp to make a 12-foot wide ramp. After the design is drawn out on the 4x8 sheet of 3/4 inch plywood, I take a circular saw and cut the straight cuts for the tops on each end, this end and that end. After the straight cuts are done with the circular saw, I finish off with the jigsaw and cut the curves. This is the straight cut with the circular saw. This is after one of the templates has been cut out of the sheet. I prefer to use garbage cans to hold up the wood while I'm cutting it. It's easy to move them around, so that after you cut them, you can they don't fall in the ground. This is the finished product after cutting from 6 sheets of 4x8 plywood. You end up with 12 templates. And when laid beside each other, end to end, they should all match exactly, both in the end and their curve and the height of their tops. Since you use the template, everything should be exact. One should match the other perfectly. I've cut the appropriate notch out of the top of the template, which in this case, using a 2-inch pipe, I decided to cut the notch at 15/16 inch back from the top, and then 1 7/8 inches down. I'm sorry, the appropriate notch was 15/16 inches back from the top edge, and then 1 3/8 inches down, which makes the cut at the bottom about 1.5 to 2 inches on the bottom. After I take the template and I lay it over each of the 3/4 inch sides that I've cut out, and before I start assembling the sides, make a cutout and then start putting them together. I have pre-cut a whole stack of 2x4s to the length of 3 feet 10.5 inches because the sides are about 3/4 of an inch thick. That's 1.5 inches. Subtract that from 4 feet because I want each section to be exactly 4 feet wide, so that the skins will fit and cover the ends of the plywood here, so that no water gets into the ends of the plywood. But what I did is I used the template, make a line over each of the 2x4s, and I cut so they're all exactly the same length. There's no variation between any of the cuts. We'll end up making you know, quite a few, over 100 of these cuts for the entire ramp. I use garbage cans to hold the sides in place while I put the first few 2x4s in place. Now, making sure the whole box is kept square while I assemble the box and put in the first 2x4s at each of the corners, and then checking to make sure that all the corners are square and not off center. If your wood cuts are not square, your box won't be square. So you got to make sure that your 2x4s are cut with a saw that cuts them perfectly square. I'm using 3-inch these Phillips 2 screws, which work really great because they don't strip, to assemble all the 2x4s to the template frame. It's a simple square to make sure that these front corners especially are both square, and if these are square, the whole box will be square. Now you can also check at all your different corners to make sure that you're still square, to make sure the box is square, because if one of the boxes that is square, when you go to assemble them, nothing will line up correctly. You can check all your different corners to make sure that you're square. Where the first layer of 3x8 ply is going to lay down on top of the ramp, which will be 4 feet from the bottom, I mark 4 feet and then use the T support so that I can screw in the two side-by-side 4x8 sheets of plywood, which are going to go sideways across the ramps on the first layer. That enables you to lap up the two pieces of wood here, and they both have something to screw in on the 2x4. But you want it supported underneath with another 2x4 to make sure that there's enough strength. This is what it should look like after all the support beams are put in place, 8 inches apart. All put in, 2 screws into each one, 3-inch screws, with the T-bar in the middle there at 4 feet from the bottom, so we can lap up to 3x8 sheets when we put our planking down. But again, you should check to make sure it's square along the way, and make sure that it stays square as you're screwing in the struts. After I've measured and placed all the supports where I wanted them, I took those markings and drew them back down on my template again, so that recreating the next 5 boxes would be nice and simple. I'll just line the template up to the cutout. I will mark the lines where the 2x4s go, and then I will take an awl and through each one of these holes that I've drilled and make a quick awl hole, so it'll be a lot easier to insert the screw. That way you can have lots of people help you with the project without having to worry about them putting the screws in the wrong places. Where we take the template, we lay it down over each one of our cut sides. They're making the marks from the template.
These two too?
Onto the, yep. They're making the marks from the template onto the wood where we're going to put each one of the struts. And then he's using the holes that I marked in the template to mark where each screw is going to go. It makes the screw start nice and easy, and that way they don't have to think about where the screw to go. They just put it in the hole that has been made with the awl. And after we do this to a side, we assemble a side.